Okay, so here we are at the Humanode Special Fireside or Community AMA, and we have Victor here. We have Princess Fiona. I believe Dimitri is sitting somewhere here.
Yeah, hi Shannon, I'm here. Happy
Hi,
to be
Dima.
here.
So today we'd like to have some special Q&A sessions. Of course, we'll have Victor give us a brief explanation of where we are and where we're going. But we want to ask, we want a lot of questions from you guys today, and I believe Dima and Victor are really ready to give all the answers that we can. So, Victor, do you want to start with some opening remarks about where we are and where we're going?
Yeah, sure. I'm doing that every day, a few times a day actually. Talking to partners and new institutional investors who want to come. So we are on our final way to the mainnet. What development team is doing right now are optimizations of the desktop and web application. You have seen a number of things connected to our community that we released already, and we will release even more small tools like that. And well, basically, we are internally right now testing the next testnet. Yeah, before the main net, we will release one more testnet, and you will be able to play with more things than usually. And you will be able to test our new palette for distribution and vesting of tokens, which we hope the substrate ecosystem will adopt as well because it's better than the options we've already seen there, which were built before. So it will be pretty interesting. Well, in terms of the main events, you already know we're close to mainnet launch. We finished our hackathon, and there are a few projects who are going through incubation of our partners in order to get launched on our chain right away. We support them after the hackathon, of course. And yeah, we're gonna say, hey, have the community sale only for human nodes in 2 weeks. And tentative launch on the exchange is end of October, on the exchanges, of course. Before you start with your questions, please, guys, we are really serious with legal. So here is a disclaimer: we will not, uh, we will not like talk about prices at all, about exchange listings, about things like that, because we're basically not allowed to. Yeah, and let's concentrate on tech more because today we have Dima, our developer who is with us for more than a year and who quickly became the blockchain lead. So yeah, happy to have pretty long answers to your questions. Let's start it.
Okay, first, just let's go with some softball here. You, Victor, you mentioned that we're going to be having another test net, so we'll have a fourth test net with some uh, new features and well, new gadgets to test and play with. Dima, are there any specific tools or gadgets that you can talk about that we will be testing in our, well, either in this wave or in the next wave of testnets?
According to the question from Shannon, are we going to have or test something special? Yes, Shannon, you're right. Specifically, when we run the latest testnet 3, we've got a lot of issues that are connected with ngrok. So we've tried to figure out what's the problem. Especially we had a session with ngrok team as well. And after some discussions, we decided that it's better to implement our own WebSocket tunnel that will allow you to connect from your phone to your laptop without having special certificates or something else. Yeah, and I believe that this is the main feature that we are going to test in our next testnet. In the meantime, yeah, we've also feel that important to us to verify the whole flow that is importantly connected with money token claims and tracing and this type of actions. So we are going to test as well. Some little improvements in terms of launcher. We've tried to make it more pretty interesting and understandable.
Cool.
I guess it is the main new features that we are going to start. Yeah, of course we have a little one, but mostly it's a little bug that we fixed after feedback from latest sessions testnet.
Okay, so we might as well just dive right into the questions, whatever they are. And remember, we have Victor and Dima here, and it is an AMA, so it's an Ask Me Anything session. But remember, as Victor said, we can't talk about pricing or how great we think the tokens are going to be, or how anything that has to do with money, or what we guess will happen with the tokens is something that we cannot legally talk about, therefore we will not. But any questions you have about the tech, or about tokenomics, or about when which wave is coming, we can talk about. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand if you can, and we'll be asking you to talk. Do we have anybody that would like to start off with a question?
I think some participant is also posting their questions in the chat room in Humanode Hub.
Yes, okay, then let's start with that. Actually, I believe it is Ian here that has asked. A lot of questions are popping up. But one moment. Let me see if I can get there again.
Hey, let's
Can
start
you?
with the first question.
Yes, go ahead.
Jan asks, will we be recruiting testnet 1 to 3 participants to the mainnet, and what are the requirements? So as you have seen on the latest testnet, we have implemented the fee system, meaning that like on any blockchain, in order to talk to it and to any actions of it, including biometric authorizations, you will have to pay in tokens. So the same goes for the people who want to launch a node. So, and what we did with the latest tech that you will actually be able to test out in the next testnet as well, not only the ngrok things, are the distribution of tokens randomly distributed throughout the month to the testnet participants so that everybody could launch a node. but in a normal pace, so that we won't have thousands of nodes on day one, but to keep network stable again, onboarding throughout the month those thousands of people who supported us without any incentive for the last year on the test nets. So yeah, this is the plan. Basically, you'll be able to do that without going to exchanges. We will just give you enough to launch your node, maybe, I don't know, for the whole year or even more.
Okay, and let's go with the second question here from Justin. It says, is there a way to use humanoid verification on other chains? For instance, to provide anti-civil to decentralized social media like Lens protocol on Ethereum and District on Internet Computer?
Okay, this is a great question, Justin. So when we were building Humanode, of course, our main long-term goal, and it is still like that, to deliver the blockchain, which is truly distributed and decentralized among all the participants, and where they own it equally. To do that, we had to take the most accurate biometric facial recognition algorithm in the world, make it private, make it decentralized, and we created the thing called bio with consensus, which is actually the part of consensus because you have to have authorization ticket if you go offline and the blockchain sees that you're kicked out of the consensus, so that there are no inactive nodes, um, which can like have a bad influence on the blockchain because some blocks will take longer than usual. And but then companies started coming to us and saying, hey, can't we use your private biometric technology in order to prove that uh, people in our protocols or applications are alive or not, and whether they're unique or not, to fight multi accounts, to fight bots, but at the same time keeping privacy of people without doing any KYC. And basically, the only information we take is special biometric data derived from your face. Your face, the image is deleted after 1-2 seconds during the session, actually. And that's why, well, we are not really holding any info or can get even our hands on the information that goes to encrypted servers. And that's why a lot of companies started coming to us. Even KYC providers, they need the they need the privacy just because their users want it. And regarding to your question on decentralized social media, Lens protocol is well, I'm already there and understand the power of it. I have friends building projects on Lens protocol, and I also had a short chat with Stani about our applications. So uh, there we build things like that. Um, if it will be easy, we have an integration team who are now working on subquery. Then they will be working on the soulbound token issue because we can map addresses from Humanode chain to other chains. But basically, the next step for once we launch the mainnet, that's when we have enough decentralization, and when finally we can start building oracles from our biometric service, which will be proving that the data we sent to the smart contracts on other chain is okay. And yeah, totally. We already a year ago actually talked to Subsocial Protocol. Seems like Lens is becoming more popular with a lot of applications building on it, and that's true. Uh, I think we're gonna have projects started in Lens or prototypes already this year. And well, haven't actually seen how District on Internet Computer performs now, but tell you the truth, biometric data that we send is so simple that we don't really care about whether the chain is EVM compatible or not. to cooperate with projects on it, and we love Rust. So internet computer would be fine in these terms if they have proper oracles built in. And for the next stages of our development, uh, we will be building bridges, a special bridge. You know, there were a lot of hacks on bridges, so that we could also not just send biometric data, but also assets and maybe even transfer identity to another chain with all of its assets. But this bridge technology, which is finally secure and connected to consensus, it's not just a few servers with a multi-sig account. It's called Beefly, and it's still in development in parity. Once these guys are closer to their final version, we're gonna take this bridge pallets and integrate as well. Yeah, so that will be the next step towards bringing our anti-Sybil tech to other chains.
Okay. Dima, do you have anything that you would like to add to that, let's say, from a more technical perspective?
From technical perspective, everything is ready. Like all that we need is just bridges. And when we had our hackathon, we've provided a way, for example, that you can use our so we've implemented a special contract that can be used in EVM compatible change, in which you can rely if somebody already Humanode or not. So yeah, that's the answer. Anyway, if you can try, you can go, like if somebody would like to try how it can be connected with EVM compatible chains, or like to try it on our Ethereum testnet, yeah, just walk through our tutorials from Hackathon and verify that it works.
Okay, Victor, let's go to the next one. Do you want to answer? Or do you want to have Dima answer the next one on the list?
The next one is pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah, so Paul starts your question regarding IPFS and FHE biometric data storage. I mean, these have probably been a really old article. The thing is that, yeah, our initial architecture was like that. But then we found out that actually biometrics are now not at the stage where you can just with your phone go and derive just one cryptographic key from one identity, or like derive unique hash from one identity. The biometric algorithms are pretty accurate right now, but they're increasing accuracy. And when you do the one-way hashing of biometric data, that means that you cannot update it anymore. That's why we right now have a different approach. So we actually don't store biometric data in any storage. What we do is that we have human nodes on the chain who will vote for those people who launch the biometric nodes. The biometric SDK is pretty heavy. That's why we turned away from secret network, as they have only Intel SGX technology with limitation in RAM. And what we did, which was another technology that has no limitations of RAM and can store millions of like faces inside one 3D database. And basically, it's all in RAM in the encrypted, trusted execution environment. And once the server like that goes down, the data is deleted immediately. So basically, we shall maintain biometric servers, and they're maintained by people appointed by the human nodes running the consensus. This is the way we're going to do that. So, for the next question, you rely heavily on some private biometric technologies like FaceTech. What is the cost of using this one for the network? What can the network do to preserve its immunity in case someone discover how to cheat? So let's start with the first one. We do rely on the face tech right now because from our research in biometric field, we found one out that their liveness detection and 3D matching technology are the most accurate right now in the industry, and they're like giving new standards to the industry, so to say. And it is pretty much impossible to build on your own in 2 years an accurate enough network to be sure that it cannot be spoofed. While they had over 10 million tests on tens of millions of people in banking environment, in security environment, in uh, governmental departments. And what we basically did, we got their technology, which we can control how we need, right? It's inside our repositories. We fixed it as we wanted, and we made it private. So by default, all the biometric, provider technology is not private at all. It's usually using just one server. And like 50% almost of our development work went into making the biometrics private. The costs are not really high compared to benefits. There are costs. They are actually, how we will define costs in fact. So the network has to earn something because it's running its biometric servers, right? And we want to achieve the state when all the costs are covered. And at the same time, each human node has some universal basic income on top. Okay, to do that not only for a year, but for some small reward as well. And so that's why the cost will be a little bit higher than what we pay for this technology. It's really not much that we need for even tens of thousands verifications. I tell you this, and the cost for biometric authorization will be first decided by basically the market, I would say. But when we find the normal price and we think it's around $1, it will actually make more flow for the validators to incentivize them. What can the network do to preserve immunity? So what we did to preserve immunity, first of all, is decoupling of the private keys of the validator and the biometric scanning. And in this case, basically, if the biometric data goes awry for some reason, uh, we'll still have a month to recuperate, launch it again, because you're validating with your private key and only you store it without relying on any biometric provider and on our biometric system. To preserve immunity, we have a long-term goal also of creating our own crypto biometric protocol, which doesn't require special hardware to keep the biometric data private. And we will actually release the demo pretty soon. Our experiments have gone far. Uh, the research is there for 2 years already, so we're in first implementation stage. You'll be able to test out our cryptobiometric algorithms. A little bit trained, but we have much data sets yet. So what else we're going to do in our roadmap, you could see this thing called biometric marketplace. What kind of marketplace is this? As we stated initially, we don't want only have facial recognition because, having multiple modalities is what makes things even more secure. And for that reason, we will be creating like almost an API, but more hardcore for biometric providers to plug in their neural networks, which might work differently, and to have multiple technological biometric providers uh, run their tech by human nodes and protecting network. So yeah, these were the answers. Thank you, Polestar, for good questions.
Okay, and before I go to give somebody a chance to answer the question from Andre, I wanted to do a quick answer by Dima for Ian here, who has a great question that I'm quite sure all of our developers would like to give an answer to. The question is, I participate in all the testnets, starting with the first one. I want to know if I can turn off the first testnet node. Dima, do you have an answer for this one?
Sure, then I have answer for this question. Yeah, and you can turn off the first testnet node because it already collected all required data from testnet 1, and yeah,
and
it's enough.
Testnet 2 perhaps?
Yeah, testnet 2, yeah, but testnet 3 is now running and it's better to keep alive.
Very good. Thank you very
so
much.
it will be good to support like testnet 4, of course, when it launches, and we have to gather nodes from the beginning. I hope you will hop onto it, as yeah, we want to try reach as much nodes as possible before launching the mainnet, because we will set the limit on the number of nodes on the mainnet to keep it stable.
Okay, so next, Victor, there's a question from Andre here. It says, hello, do you guys know that DYDX is asking new users to use liveness check for their wallet? Victor.
Oh, well, I haven't heard about that. Thanks for this. We shall talk to their team, because I'm sure they couldn't make it private yet. And that's why the response from the people can be really bad, especially when they keep the biometrics on chain. Oh my God, this is awful. So the YUX will be coming full KYC soon. I expect that to happen. They're pretty good in accepting all the legal requirements that governments ask for them. But yeah, I shall talk to the team. Thank you, Andre, for that, and tell them that we have a better solution for them. Probably they have.
Okay, now we have another question from Justin here. It says, if future AIs can spoof unique biometrics liveness, can they create enough fake nodes for controlling 2, 3 plus nodes? Thus, since would be the path to recover from this attack? Victor or Dima?
What's your take on this, Dima? Well, this is pretty speculative, but I have few NDs in mind.
So what I would like, yeah, it's interesting question, and in general, to answer properly, I can't right now, but what I can say about our current implementations, that our consensus is not just based on just Humanode. So Humanode verification is based on BAPE consensus lot, and it means that if you are able to control two of three nodes in Humanode, you will be able to control 2 or 3 nodes in any other based consensus, example, Polkadot, and do all stuff that you want. So anyway, consensus is so theory question that in case you have a lot of money, you can emulate 2 or 3 nodes in your network and do all that you want. But so it's a trade-off. what it depends on your goals.
Yeah, so there are some, of course, it's a constant battle. We understand that between the hackers and those who develop software, and that's why, yeah, we have some on-chain stuff happening, right? We have the consensus, as Dimo said, which states that basically you nodes don't trust each other. They don't have to trust each other. And another thing we have is that the consensuses that we have now in the industry, yeah, I see the question on consensuses as well, Dima. You can take next one, the last one, I mean, later. And there is limitation to the number of nodes to make blockchain efficient, right? And imagine that we already have a community who's going to run at least 1,000 nodes. And apparently, right now, we will also start with around 1,000 nodes in the consensus, while the others will be getting into the queue. And the queue in our case is multi-level. It works like that. It's proof of time and proof of devotion. Proof of time, the person is running a node. That means that once we already have a lot of people at the start from the community who launch their nodes, their proof of time is getting higher as they keep good performance of the node and continue to authenticate. And for an attacker, even he launches today, for example, 10,000 of nodes and gets 90% bigger than the whole network, well, then he won't be able to get into consensus set because he's running a node for the first day. That's it. And he stays there. So what will he have to do? He will have to re-authenticate each month to finally get into consensus, while we're updating the AI algorithms like almost each month, and they're getting more accurate in anti-spoofing. The next thing is getting proof of devotion in terms of voting. So we will have a lot of voting recorded on chain. If you participate in enough number of proposals, well, you will stay in the validator set. Otherwise, you're again competing in the queue to get there. And the last thing is, of course, our tier model. So imagine that the networks develops. It's really decentralized with a lot of active participants, not only the core team, and people will get proof of devotion for doing proposals or executing proposals that are happening to tilt our network, to get more partnerships or exposure around the world, to grow it. And that's when it will be really hard for a person to get into consensus set. With the years, the threshold will rise and rise. Of course, this threshold will also rise for the number of nodes we accept as we optimize the technology and maybe introduce new consensus. But we won't be in one day increasing like tenfold the number of nodes. We will be doing it gradually, not to get attacked like you just described.
And maybe what I would like to add in general that being Humanode doesn't mean that the whole network will trust you. So you just one body to join to the network, but all other rules in terms of consensus and network are still the same as other chain.
Yeah. In the worst case scenario, there is always an option of fork, as you know. So imagine somebody really does that, which is really hard. We will just applaud him a little bit, and we will all together, people, launch the new network after like fixing his spoofing attempt. As blocks are finalized, the attacker won't be able to change. They're finalized in about 18 seconds, so he won't be able to change the ledger, and we will just roll back to the version that we're all sure about, and he will stay alone in his Humanode fork.
Okay, now we have another question here from Polestar WX. I'm quite sure this is a question for Dima.
Yeah, I can read. One of you said that Snowman consensus is weak because of the node that can go offline on Discord. According to an Avalanche developer in 2019, at least 20% of the node can go offline without affecting the network. Maybe much more right now. Can you give more detail about your choice? Is that because our labs doesn't have SDK framework compared to Parity Substrate framework? Interesting question. First of all, we don't rely, the main decision don't rely on any tools that somebody has, for example, SDK framework. No, our main choice is based on general, is it possible to overcome obstacles that we need and etc. Like our main choice here was about consensus and general trade-off consensus in terms of performance, low latency, scalability. And here we've had different experiments with Avalanche and we've made little research according here. And yes, you Pastor mentioned 20%, it's a very big number to make bad things in terms of consensus. So that's why we decided that it's better to use Babe because it's general allows to rely on that 2 of 30% is still honest and will do right decisions. But if we take in consideration Avalanche, like when 20% of goals independently go offline, the node will be stopped and it will be difficult to fork is possible, but anyway, it's very slow lower than 2 of 30 honest nodes.
Yeah, well, 20% is also a big number here because of the model the person used in the research. So basically, the Avalanche consensus is like Snow family consensus are customizable in terms of different parameters. And you basically have to lower other parameters to get to 20%. Well, we
Oh
didn't
yeah,
see
right.
it as stable enough. But in the general equation, if you look at the paper, it's root out of n nodes. And well, in this case, you can get good scalability. But I mean, as the number of nodes grows, you see, so if you change the numbers in equation from the Avalanche developer to some different ones, you will see that this number comes down.
And yeah, it's a great reminder, Victor, to me is that, in general, Snowman consensus depends on few parameters. One of them is how much rounds should we take in one session and how many requests should we do. And 20% is the best, but not applicable in real world, I would say.
Okay, so we are down to having 15 minutes left here. So remember, if you are waiting to, if you're waiting for the right timing to ask your question that you wanted to save until the very end, well, this is your chance to start typing. And, or you can raise your hand and we can have you ask your question using your voice. But while we move forward here and while we wait for you to ask your question that you have been waiting to ask, let's see. Who shall we go with?
Oh, we got new questions coming in, Sean.
Yes, I know. So, well, Well, let me go with one from Justin here. She says, will multiple biometrics be combined? Neural signature plus face. Do multiple biometric checks increase some kind of verification score, or is it all or nothing?
Okay, Sean, you took not the last question, but we'll get back to Justin. Oh, it's your question again. So yeah, multiple biometrics will be combined. Uh, it shouldn't be really the fusion of biometric data altogether during one session, but this also makes things more secure. Um, so it will actually depend on the DAO decision of what kind of new protocols do we integrate or do we accept if they want to integrate themselves. And ideally, the if you want to increase the security, right, and get rid of the problem that we talked about recently, we will have the humanoids go through multiple biometrics all at once without any choice. Because the security of the network, is the equals the security of the like least secure part of it, meaning that if few people can go through only one biometric option and others go through multiple biometric options, it doesn't increase security. In fact, um, so for those companies who want to use our biometrics for their needs, well, they will be able to set the things themselves. Actually, even with the biometric algorithms we have right now for our network, we choose the highest security, and that's why you sometimes have to go through the biometric session few times. And that's why it doesn't work on PCs because, well, the signal from USB to your PC is not that good, and the algorithm which like checks how you use the device at the moment to see that it's not a hacker trying to bypass the video feed. The liveness detection modules will just say you, hey, please try again. It seems like you're not really alive. So yeah, the answer to your question, to increase security, it will be all or nothing. Because we're talking about maximum security on our chain, but for other use cases, there will be a choice of the developer. And Justin, you also asked about server challenging and delegating to professional node operators. Well, about 50% of nodes on our network are launched from local PCs, and 50% is already launched in the cloud. But when you launch the server in the cloud, you have the uh, SSH key from it, right? So the cloud server provider is not able to see it. Well, ideally, if you choose a normal server provider. But we see right now what's happening with Ethereum, for example, right? They have for-profit companies who represent pretty good technology of staking pools where people can just put their Ethereum however they want it, and these guys will launch multiple nodes if you have a lot of Ethereum, or you will like become part of the pool in one node with other people. That's awful. It really leads to the fact that everybody wants to use professional providers who control through their technology, which is more centralized than Ethereum themselves, the validation. And this is what we want to avoid. And actually, the tech that we use until we have a lot of throughput on the network is really accessible so that you could run it from your home, from your PC. That's why a lot of people do that, which is great. Our network is really optimized due to the fact that we don't have all those proof of stake modules. And at the same time, well, people use cloud servers. I also use cloud servers for that reason, but you control the key there.
Okay, Victor,
Yeah.
do you plan to conquer the web too? Do you already
Well,
have agreements
we
with any
have that
companies?
plan. We have to prove it first on smaller scale, I would say. But we're talking to some Web2 companies who need Sibyl defense, they're really slow, if they're big, and we want to have big one. If you have any ideas who to partner up with, we're ready to go. Once we launch the mainnet and prove the people that we can launch a financial network based on the private biometrics we have, we expect companies from Web2 come to us and ask for private biometric as well. So, well, there is a plan like that, and there are actually right now a lot of initiatives in Web 2 to go Web 3. That's where we can help them.
Okay, I'm throwing a question towards Dima. What are the best
Yep.
resources for developers who are interested in Humanode apps?
The best resource is our Gitbook and our GitHub. But currently, some projects are still private, but anyway, some of them will be available after the main launch.
Yeah. Well, we already at least know that the tag we're using has been optimized from the tag that is able, on Substrate, the throughput is 10K TPS, and that's what we have if you're using the Substrate modules. It's lower on EVM, but matches the one of Moonbeam. So we don't know the real throughput that will be on mainnet, but I'm telling you about the limits, right? The throughput on the mainnet will depend on how quickly projects integrate with us and how quickly we onboard our partners. As we have few of them who have over 100,000 of users. Well, to be accurate, they have accounts, not proven users, but we will change it. And yeah, half of our partners will require all the users go through private biometric checks. I'm ready for the next one.
Okay, then how about the question from Pulsar WX? Does the unlock time for the strategic and angel is an investor start at TG as public investor?
Oh, yeah. And sorry, I have to add to the previous answer. The finality, you can actually see it. We set it ourselves, not really low and not really long. So we have 6 seconds per block, and it takes 2 blocks more to finalize them, which goes down to, well, 18 seconds, which we think is okay because after the block is there, well, 18 seconds won't change your life, right? Uh, as we have pretty modular blockchain, we will be able to change those numbers if there is. Well, I hope we won't have problems like, hey, we have to increase the block limit, but uh, through forkless runtime upgrades, you won't have to do anything to support the upgrade after the decision is made. We'll be able to change that. Okay, the question about identical twins. So if
It's
they are
interesting
from
question.
oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, it's interesting question in terms of cryptography.
Well, Dima, go ahead. Let's have you answer this one.
I don't know what is Victor is going to say, but I would like to share that yeah, in general that we are going to achieve in future. We would like to transform like all biometric data into some space where we can do some metrics. So it means if the faces are very different in those space, we will have a vector that have like a big distance between them, and we can say that they are not equal. What about twins? Yeah, like here, our, I would say, best developers in cryptography and mail is working how to distinguish them. So maybe like we will add some additional metrics to distinguish twins. But yeah, it's really interesting question, and we are working on it, and we try to do the best on our side.
A good thing we could say we tested them ourselves on almost identical twins, so they really look alike. You won't be able to say they're very much different from the first look, but it worked already. Identical twins will have one note. Unfortunately, it's not solved. I mean, if they have the same DNA, well, how can we distinguish them? It's a good question. We don't have the answer yet.
Maybe in the long future, when we will use all our human features like brain, finger, face.
Okay, Victor, how about the next one?
And this info is public. It's in our public sale Gitbook. The cliffs and vesting of our backers, early backers who believed in us and fueled our developments, they are starting from TGE. So yeah, that's right. It hasn't started a year ago. It's starting from TGE, as for everybody else. So we're pretty transparent, and yeah, we won't bring you down here 100%.
Okay, well, we are running out of time, but let's go for one last question. This is a fairly standard one, but can users delegate votes to others, i.e. liquid democracy?
No, there was one more question, Shannon.
Oh, okay.
What are the best resources for developers who are interested in Humanode apps?
Actually,
So
that was already answered by
Oh, really?
Dima.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Didn't notice that, but we can send you the link after that. You can actually try build something, but as it's not mainnet, well, it's in centralized demo mode, so to say. And can we delegate vote to others? So yeah, we decided to keep the delegation because sometimes a person goes on, I don't know, on a holiday, you don't even have access. It will be possible to delegate. However, if you're, as I said, right, our DAO, and it's built directly in our chain, it's not like a smart contract. So it defines the rules for the chain. If you're not active enough compared to others, you will be out of the consensus as validators said. I think, well, you're pretty early, so being an active voter and just proposing some ideas that we will then apply or grant will be enough to stay there.
Okay, so thank you very much. This has been the first special fireside in a couple of months now. As we have mentioned, we are very, very close to Mainnet and, of course, the TT. So we will be asking you all to come back if you're interested in perhaps 2 or 3 weeks. We would like to have one more session. So if you have any questions that you thought of, any questions that you thought we haven't answered yet or we should have talked about, write them down. You can send them or you can save them up for the next AMA. But thank you very much for being here all. Thank you, Victor, and thank you, Dima, for being with us, and thank you everybody for asking all the questions. Thank you for coming.